and welcome. Thank you for joining me. Today, I wanted to discuss the topic of financial mismanagement. To help me with this topic, here joining me is my dad. Hi, Dad.
Hi.
So, Dad, you have worked as a CPA in governmental and non governmental organizations, both in America and around the world. From your experience, could you share what financial mismanagement really is?
Yes, financial mismanagement or fraud is a very broad term and includes many situations which are intended to mislead others. Theft is one category of fraud. It is the intentional removal of money or property without the approval of the legitimate owner. So, an important ingredient of theft is the intention to commit the fraud, and organizations lose money through employee fraud.
Interesting. So, could you share with me and my friends about how organizations lose money through employee fraud?
Yes, be aware that there are various kinds of organizations doing business. There are manufacturing companies, there are business organizations, there are trade organizations, and there are states and local governments which are also organizations. And there are churches and similar non-profit organizations. All these organizations need money and property to do their work, and they must hire employees to safeguard or keep their money and property. For the employees, there is a great temptation to steal the money or property in their custody.
So, what can organizations do in order to safeguard their money, property, and other assets?
Organizations should implement internal controls to safeguard their money and also to achieve their objectives. Internal controls are designed to safeguard their money and property. If there are no internal controls, employees can steal the organization's money and property easily.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. Do you have any interesting stories on how employees stole money or have stolen money?
Yes, I'd like to tell you a story about a little town in Texas. This little town in Texas hired an accountant several years ago. This accountant was very clever. She convinced the mayor and the town council that she could do all the accounting work for them. So they do not need to hire any assistants or spend money on any assistants for her. She would do all the budgeting, the collection of revenue, the spending of the revenue, and the recording of it all by herself, so that they would not have to spend any further money on accounting. Because the town council was doing well financially, no one really worried to talk about or think about it, and everyone was happy. After 22 years, this accountant took a vacation. The person who was acting in her place happened to glance at a bank statement which arrived in the mail, and she saw something unusual. She shared it with the mayor. The mayor was baffled, and he called in the FBI to help him. The FBI reviewed it and suspected that a fraud may be going on. They investigated further and discovered that this accountant was the owner of a horse farm in the neighborhood, and her horses had taken part in several competitions and won many awards. Further investigation revealed that she had taken the town council's money and spent it on her hobby, the horse farm. This had been going on for 22 years.
22 years. That is unbelievable.
And the amount stolen was over $50 million.
Unbelievable. That's a great deal of money, Dad. So, how is it that the town council did not feel that they were losing money?
Yes. Now, this is a question of how they accumulate money or collect money for their operations. Remember, the federal government has only income taxes to collect revenue. The towns and the states, they collect money through their property taxes. So you are paying from your income to the federal government, and you're paying through your property to the local government of which you are a part. So in this case, she was doing the budgeting, which is actually fixing the tax rates. So she had to increase the tax rates by a small amount in order to make up for the money she was stealing. And that's how this happened.
So, what lessons can corporations and people learn in general from this story?
Yes, this happened because the town council did not establish an important and essential internal control called segregation of duties. This control states that the same employee should not be given responsibility for all the transactions or the actions of one transaction. In this case, this accountant was in charge of first, collecting the tax revenue, second, spending the money as needed by the town council, and third, writing the books of account as she was the accountant. According to the principle of segregation of duties, these three functions should be segregated or separated and given to separate employees so that one employee cannot steal the money or steal the property and hide it.
Mm-hmm. I completely understand now. Yeah, just makes absolute sense. So, any additional comments that you'd like to add before we wind up?
Yes, this case was made into a documentary or a film called All the Queen's Horses. and, and this documentary may be available on YouTube, and your friends may like to search for it and view it. The name, the title, All the Queen's Horses, is a parody on her behavior, her ability to reign like a queen for 22 years in that town. So this documentary is a very useful one to demonstrate the segregation of duties.
Interesting. All the Queen's horses. And this reminds me of, when I was a little girl, and I'm sure many of us do, the nursery rhyme that says Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the Queen's horses and all the Queen's men could not put Humpty Dumpty together again.
Very nice.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah. And obviously she really Humpty Dumpty'd herself at the end. And, all's well that ends well, it looks like. So thank you so much for sharing a real life fascinating story about internal controls and the importance of having internal controls and the concept of segregation of duties. I learned a lot. Thank you again, and hope you learned something interesting. And hopefully we will all get a chance to watch the documentary and or film All the Queen's Horses. So Dad, thank you for this session. I'm looking forward to having much more and learning from you, and also sharing with you some things that I also have learned along the way. And of course, hopefully you do join us and we can add interesting topics along the way as well. Thank you for your time and have yourself a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.